I think the best part of getting an award is actually getting accustomed and getting into a community of high performing individuals. See, as founders, we are actually solving problems daily in our own sector. And once you get into a community like this, you get to learn from experience of different founders who are in the same boat but in a different setting. So that's something which is more exciting, where you are getting acquainted with such new faces who have been in the same problems, and you start sharing your learnings with each other.
Ankit, you have got award, but we see that many studies shows that only 20% of Indian companies, Indian startups survive after 5 years, and only 8% survive after 10 years. What do you see the reason behind it, and do you see that India might be a startup hub?
Absolutely. See, first of all, there is a difference between going into those funded startups, which is more of a valuation game, where actual value is in the value creation. And the value creation is how you impact the industry that you are working in, how you change the ecosystem. And if you talk about India becoming a startup hub, see, India is a very, in India's culture is very focused on high value. And once that value gets attached, which is not just financial but also social values, and once we combine these Indian values with businesses, you can create those long term sustainable growing businesses which will thrive for centuries.
If you see last year there were many few unicorns.
Yeah.
After 2023, it was expected that maybe 2024 may be a year where we may say a lot of unicorns, but 8 months have gone and we have seen only 5 unicorns.
Yeah.
Do you see the number will increase?
See, first of all, you have to understand unicorn is a metric which tells any company that has become $1 billion in valuation. Now, markets go in cycle. We in the COVID era, 2020, 2021, the interest rates were very less, and that resulted in a lot of liquidity in the market, which created that ample supply of cash, which resulted in many unicorns coming in. And once we went into the high interest rate cycle where countries wanted to control inflation, the liquidity in the market reduced, which eventually resulted in number of unicorns going down. But the idea is fundamentally the startups that have been coming in this era have been very conscious of value and crunch, and have been born in a market where there was crunch of money. And these have been built on very strong fundamentals, and that is what the base is, which will help us see a lot of unicorns in the future.
But it is not about the only unicorn. If you see, according to a report named Indian Tech Startup Funding, startup funding had declined from 2023 to 2024. In the first half year, it is almost, as per the report, decline had been 1.8% approx. What do you see the region in this decline, and do you see investors have changed their opinion or approach towards the Indian startup? Are they not feeling as confident in the Indian startup as they used to be?
See, I'll reiterate the point. The whole market has been going into a very low liquidity point because the interest rates are very high, and that's why, given that there is less supply of money, there are no up rounds which are happening quite frequently. But that does not correlate to how India has been building this business. See, the key point that India is standing at is India is not just a supply base, it's also becoming the biggest demand hub or a P&L centers of international companies as well, where the rising middle income and the largest population in the world gives those fuels at the back of India and the whole Indian business ecosystem to thrive and grow, and India will become one of the biggest hubs of startups in the coming future.
We talked a lot about Indian startup coming to your company and your sector. What do you see the 3 defining trends in your sector, and how do you see the sector evolve in coming years?
See, the first trend that I will, that not just in my fashion industry, but the overall manufacturing industry we are seeing is the China plus one tailwind. So, if you would see, the global companies were majorly reliant on China earlier, but now they are looking at different options, and India is becoming one sought after location because gone are those days where India was just related to an old backward country. India is coming as a global powerhouse. Secondly, the whole geographical sector that you would see specifically in apparels, India shines out because, first of all, a lot of crops, especially cotton, is grown here. So the back-end supply chain is here. As well as if you would see neighboring countries, Sri Lanka suffering from economic dollar crisis, Bangladesh, the whole turmoil that is happening, Pakistan, politically a risky place to go in, which also fuels India's growth in the fashion industry. And finally, I believe now India is not just looked as a manufacturing hub. A lot of international luxury brands are opening up their retail houses here because it's a potential market. So nearshoring is one major trend that everyone is seeing, where you make in India for India and the world. So just to give you a real insight, Shein is coming to India, which is one of the biggest fashion players in the world, with Reliance. And the mandate for Shein to come in India was that the complete supply would be 100% in India. And the second mandate was the Indian supply would also enable exports globally. So see, that's the whole powerhouse. iPhone coming in India, manufacturing is happening here. All of these trends showcase that we are at the right place at the right time, and the next decade is for India.
You mentioned the term China plus one.
Yeah.
What exactly that means?
So if you would see, world's global manufacturing was being done out of China. What happened after COVID, people realized that your supply chain could not be concentrated in one geographical location. So what happened at that time, brands realized that we have to diversify their supply chain and they have to move out of China. So that was the China plus one tailwind. A deeper insight, which not a lot of articles talk about, is the two-child policy that came in China. What happened? China one day put this two-child policy. A lot of children were not going into the labor market because they were going and managing their family business, which resulted in a labor shortage in China, and that resulted in the manufacturing cost going up as well. So these were the two major factors which resulted in global players, global companies to diversify outside of China, and hence the China plus one
Interesting.
strategy.
So coming on your company, how has been the performance of your company in last quarter and broadly in last financial year?
So if you would see, ZYOD was started in January of 2023. So it's a fairly young company. It's been almost 1.5 years since we are operating. And from a zero revenue, we have reached a multi-million-dollar revenue in just a period of 18 months. And not only that, we are serving 18 countries across the globe. So the business is not just growing at a rapid pace, but it is also been growing globally across different countries. And that's what our focus is, to make India and ZYOD one of the global manufacturing hubs of the world.
So what is your long-time vision? How, where do you see your company after 5 years? If I say 1 year or 5 years, what do you want to talk?
See, the mission that we have at the company is to bring India at the forefront of global manufacturing space. India has the right opportunity at the moment. What it was lacking was the process and the reliability. Once we bring in those technology solutions to bring that reliability and process, we would be able to not just bring ZYOD at the forefront, but bring the whole Indian manufacturing ecosystem and make India a sought after location for global apparel supply chain.
Thank you, Ankit, for your time.
Thank you so much.